My name is Adam B. Levine. I do a twice-weekly show about the ideas, people, and projects building essentially Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency world that we're going to inhabit over the next 20 years. The people on this panel are better known, generally speaking, than I am because they're some of the most prominent entrepreneurs doing some of the hardest work as far as Bitcoin is concerned. The problem is always in the regulatory side and being able to get permission to do these things because technically speaking, they're just not hard anymore. So Stephan Pair, the CTO of BitPay, is going to give us a talk on essentially the evolution of money, as I understand it. Then we have a couple of other talks in the schedule, but we're going to skip them. Tony's going to go up and show off a little bit of the BitPay website. Then we're just going to go straight into Q&A. And if we run out of questions, I've got questions to ask too. So this should be a fairly fast-moving panel, and once Stephan gets ready, we'll kick right into it.
I tried to design this presentation to really bring a new sort of perspective or talk a little bit about how Bitcoin gives us a new perspective on money. And maybe it's not a new perspective, maybe it's one that people have had for many years, but not a lot of people think about money as much as perhaps this audience here does. And so that was kind of the gist of what I wanted to, get across in this presentation. I put a quote up there. Alan Kay is a computer scientist. I've been a big fan of his work. He was at Xerox PARC. Back in the 70s, he said, point of view is worth 80 IQ points. And so I think by changing your perspective and really looking at money from a different point of view, it can be enlightening. So that's what I wanted to get across in this presentation. A lot of people don't think about money as a protocol, but money, all forms of money, not just Bitcoin, they are a protocol. They are not so different from email protocols, from HTTP, or even legal protocols like the Uniform Commercial Code. So Bitcoin allows us to interact and engage with each other on a microeconomic basis economically. It's sort of how we send the signals to each other about what we value in society. So you buy something, you spend money on something, you're saying, I value that thing more than this money that I have in my hand. So in that sense, it is a communications protocol. And Bitcoin very much is a communications protocol. But we're sending microeconomic messages to one another in that protocol. Now Bitcoin is software, and it operates this protocol on the internet. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin is a human protocol. And the best evidence of this is when we have severe, sometimes very severe bugs in the Bitcoin network, in the Bitcoin software. We actually overcome those by humans stepping in and fixing those bugs. In the early days of Bitcoin, there was somebody that spent, I think, 1 billion Bitcoins. They created a transaction for, way more than 21 million due to a bug in the software. That was clearly in violation of the protocol, and the entire community basically acknowledged that that was a bug and viewed that as a flawed transaction, and they backed that out of the blockchain, and life moved on. So when you think about Bitcoin, think about it being software that enforces a protocol, but that protocol at the end of the day is a human protocol. We're just using the machines to operate the protocol. So I've got a whole other presentation on Bitcoin's intrinsic value. You've probably heard it already here today, but Bitcoin enables something that was previously thought to be impossible, and that's to have a secure, irreversible value transfer over the internet. Until Bitcoin, that was, like I said, thought to be impossible. You can do this anywhere on the internet, anywhere in the world where you have internet access. So I can download some software, you can download some software, and then I can send you Bitcoins. But there's one problem. You have to get Bitcoins to do that. And that is the source of demand for Bitcoins. That's what gives Bitcoin its value. It's that ability to send that irreversible payment over the internet that gives it its value. So when people try and think of it, try to think about how Bitcoin could even possibly exist, think about what it enables you to do and the fact that there's a limited supply of it enforced by the protocol. And that in order to do those things, you have to have Bitcoins. And that's why there are bids on the order books on all the exchanges. You all probably have one of these in your pocket or your wallet. I mean, not one of those, but one that's a little bit more evolved from, actually not that evolved from that, right? That's one of the original credit cards that ever existed. I think the expiration date on that is 1955. How many people in here think that they anticipated the internet when they designed that? Right, and yet we're still using that same basic technology to try and conduct payments on the internet today. It's clear that they couldn't have anticipated today's internet and the cryptographic technology available to us when they designed credit cards. So a credit card is fundamentally a pull transaction. So when you fill out that information on a website, you give the merchant or the merchant processor all of your personal information, including the credit card number. That gives the merchant the ability to pull money out of your account. And that right there is the source of all the credit card fraud that occurs on the internet. If hackers can break into a system and steal that information, then they can also pull money out of your account. So Bitcoin works differently. It is a digitally signed, cryptographically signed transaction that you create and you send that exact amount of money to the recipient. It's not that different from sending an email. On this slide, I'd like to talk a little bit about the sort of evolution, not of different kinds of money, but different ways, different payment technologies. We had commodity money, gold and silver, since ancient times. I think China in the 11th century invented paper currency. And we've had digital currency or virtual currency for about 50 years now. A lot of people don't think of the US dollar as being a virtual currency, or maybe this room does, but, but a lot of people don't. And it's a psychological thing. But you know, when was the last time you actually were ever paid in cash for your paycheck, right? So we've had digital currency and virtual currency for about 50 years now, really with the advent of computers and ever since the Federal Reserve began using computers to manage their ledger. I think about 97% of all US dollars exist in purely digital form. And then we come to today, or really about 20 years ago, when we started pioneering cryptographic currencies. A lot of people think that Bitcoin is version 1 of cryptocurrencies, but it's not. I think the first cryptocurrency was something called DigiCash back in 1990, pioneered by David Chaum. What Bitcoin brings to the table is the innovation that allows us to have a purely decentralized digital currency. But David Chaum and DigiCash, they were using cryptographic algorithms to secure payments on their network 20 years ago. I also like to describe Bitcoin as the most counterfeit-proof form of payment we've ever invented. And it's more counterfeit-proof than any of those other forms of currency that you see on the screen there. More counterfeit-proof than gold because gold's very expensive to test, to weigh, or to do the smelt test. More counterfeit-proof than paper. You've all seen the little pins that you mark up the $20 bills, and you know, who really knows if you're getting a real paper dollar or not. More counterfeit-proof than digital currency, and I consider, thinking of the broader, I consider credit cards to be a form of digital currency as well. Look at all the credit card fraud that exists. So in a few milliseconds, up to 10 minutes till you see the first block on the blockchain, you can verify that you have Bitcoins in your possession. And that's why I describe it as the most counterfeit-proof form of currency. I think the Bitcoin network today has something like 135, the difficulty is something like 135 million. So Bitcoin specifically, and compared to the other altcoins, is much more counterfeit-proof than those other altcoins. On this slide, I talk a little bit about Bitcoin's breakthrough. Bitcoin enables this decentralized currency to exist through the process of mining. The process of mining is what allows computers around the earth to synchronize on one definitive sequence of valid transactions. It uses something called decentralized proof of work-based consensus. I think you guys have heard all this before. But, yeah, so that was really the real computer science breakthrough behind Bitcoin that made Bitcoin possible. So prior to that, we were using cryptographic technology in digital and virtual currencies, but we didn't have this capability to have a completely decentralized issuance of the currency. So fundamentally, what is it that the Bitcoin network or the mining network, what does it do? Well, it doesn't answer the riddle of what came first, the chicken or the egg. But if you gave the Bitcoin network a chicken and an egg, the entire network would agree on which one came first. Even if it was wrong, it would agree. And if you have a computer science background, you know why that's significant, right? It's basically an event ordering system. So now we have millions of computers around the world that can agree on something. And this technology is not just useful for payments and Bitcoin, but it's also useful for a lot of other things. So that's a valuable aspect of the Bitcoin protocol and the Bitcoin system that goes well beyond just simple payments. So how can you create more Bitcoins? Well, the first thing you can do is convince everyone else to let you. So good luck with that one. The second thing you can do is you can change the rules of math. And the third thing you could do is you could change the laws of physics. I mentioned math. Math is used in Bitcoin in a lot of different respects. At its simplest level, there's a ledger system that keeps track of what addresses have what amount of Bitcoins. There's math that's used to reach in the consensus algorithm to reach consensus among all the peers on the network. And then there's math to reach consensus when you're computing the block hashes, and that's how the consensus, the proof of work-based consensus works. So the math that's used in the proof of work-based consensus. So we're computing these numbers over and over and over again. And when you get right down to it, it's the physics of computing hardware that makes that actually take time. So you can't just instantly find the next block. So in a sense, Bitcoin, the integrity of the Bitcoin network comes down to both math and physics. And that's not unlike gold or what we're used to in the physical world. So gold is secured. It's a decentralized ledger system. So you have a certain number of atoms that are traded on the market. Somebody gives you a gold coin, you receive a certain number of atoms. So gold is a decentralized ledger system. And when you possess gold, a certain number of atoms of gold, you know you have that in your possession. But it's a ledger system, just like Bitcoin is a ledger system. Gold is a ledger system like the dollar is a ledger system. So, but the only difference between gold and those other forms of information is that the information is just manifest in a physical form. So gold is an information-based currency just like the rest of them. So here's on the left we have Visa's billion-dollar data center to try and combat the fraud problem. And on the right we have a mining operation. So which one's better? Both are designed to secure payments, right? They both in a way, they do kind of the same thing. Now one is heavily centralized, whereas the other one is heavily decentralized. Now one is a patchwork on top of a flawed system, and the other is a robust, very nice design. Now, if you didn't know anything else and you just saw those two pictures, I think most people would look to the left picture when I talk about a robust design. But actually, the patchwork of, the messy patchwork of, of systems built on top of a flawed design is the picture on the left. And then finally, you've heard a lot about smart contracts, smart property. Money isn't everything. Bitcoin can do a lot beyond simple, simple person-to-person payments. So you've heard other talks on this one. That's it.
Okay, good afternoon. Many of you know me. I'm not going to go through my normal presentation with The Simpsons because that's on YouTube and you guys have seen it before. And I just gave it again last week in Amsterdam. But I wanted to give everybody an update of all the things that we've been working on at BitPay. Steve and I started the company back in May of 2011, and for the first 18, 20 months, it was just the two of us building a working product and getting some customers. And then WordPress hit and everything changed. That's when we had investors coming at us, and we decided to take some venture capital and hire people, and here we are. So we started this year, just the two of us, and today we have 16 people. So we're rapidly growing and we're expanding more internationally. But I want to show you a few things that our team has come up with recently. So in case you haven't looked at our website lately, these are some new things. So one of the key things that we wanted to get across to our target audience, which are merchants, is what's the value proposition of accepting Bitcoin? Why should they care? And one of the things that we found that our merchants were most excited about is not the fact that it costs a little bit less, but the fact that they can reach customers from a worldwide audience, right? So you have a website and you have a unique product and you have people that are visiting your website from 200 countries. You have UPS and FedEx that can deliver your product to 200 countries. Both of those work fine. The problem is in the middle. The problem is you can't take a payment. You can't take a payment with a credit card beyond maybe 6 or 8 countries. You know, PayPal doesn't really work much beyond that either. So many companies are not able to access the interest from customers they're getting in emerging markets. Bitcoin allows them to do that. And that's the one feature about Bitcoin that people are most excited about. That's the one we put on our banners and on our homepage. You know, we also have, for retailers, a simple web app where they can use any smartphone or tablet as a point of sale. This works really well. We recently added the ability for our merchants to download all of their sales history from BitPay directly into QuickBooks. So now they can report and reconcile all their sales that they've made in Bitcoin. You'd be surprised how excited they are because it saves them so much time than trying to figure it out and enter in every one of these manually. Digital content. I think when you get into publishing micropayments, this is a huge market for Bitcoin. You know, you can process a transaction for 25 cents with Bitcoin and you can't do that with credit cards, and we're getting a lot of interest from those areas. We've also integrated with Amazon fulfillment, and this is really interesting. If you are a small business and you have inventory, you send your inventory up to Amazon and you let Amazon sell it on their website. They sell it, they ship it, and you just get a check. It's really great, but what most people don't know is that you as the owner have the ability to sell that merchandise on your own website, under your own terms and conditions and whatever payment methods you want, and then just have Amazon ship it. So Amazon provides a really nice API just for their warehousing and fulfillment, and that's what we've integrated with. So this is really exciting as well. Bitcoin Magazine uses it, so if you ever go to bitcoinmagazine.com and you buy one of the issues, you'll get a package in your mail from Amazon. And it's all done hands-free. They don't have to actually enter anything into the Amazon website. If you go to Bitcoin Magazine and you pay with PayPal, well, you're making more work for them because they have to manually upload it to Amazon, and it works not nearly as nicely as the way BitPay does. And of course, we have an API that businesses use to automatically route orders through our system. I wanted to show, oh, there we go. Yeah, that might be on the demos page. Let me see. Yeah, so I'm not sure if you guys heard the announcement that we made in New York about the BitGive Foundation. This is a charitable organization that my sister and I and Steve started. The idea here is to create an endowment in Bitcoin that can have a meaningful impact on people's lives in a few years to take advantage of the capital appreciation and capital formation that Bitcoin is going to offer. So by creating a small endowment now, in a few years you're going to be able to make significant donations to medical research and the environment. So there's some brochures on our table over there if you're interested in learning more. We're just getting this off the ground and we're very excited to announce it. But just to show you some of the new things that we've added to our site, I'm actually going to donate right now $10 to the BitGive Foundation. I'm going to do it anonymously. I'm doing it public, everybody knows it, but when this goes on the blockchain, nobody's going to know that this is me. So this is a simple web form that we did. The code for it was on the right. This is now BitPay's invoice page, which launches there. So this is what an invoice looks like for every one of our merchants. We put their name at the top. We took that $10. We calculated how many Bitcoins it is. We created a one-time use Bitcoin address, and we put a timer on it. So the customer now has to go off and do an action. The customer has to use their Bitcoin wallet to send the payment. So I'm going to go to the Bitcoin app on my phone where my wallet is, and I'm going to scan from a QR code. And I'm going to send it. Now on the invoice here, we actually publish what the exchange rate is. Right now, I'm getting a quote of 122.16. You know, this is a system that BitPay builds. We have our own market monitor. We monitor all the major exchanges, and there, the payment was already received. So that's how it works. It's extremely fast and responsive. And you know, merchants are really liking this because when we sat down a few years ago to design the tools, we really took our time to make sure that we designed the tools the right way and that, you know, merchants could adopt them. We didn't want to expose them to any Bitcoin terminology that was still kind of foreign to a lot of people, right? They request a payment in dollars, we send them a call back when it's done. And if they don't want to keep the Bitcoins, we give them the ability to get a direct deposit in their bank account. And as we've grown, we can now do that in 33 countries. We can give a merchant a direct deposit in the US, Canada, and the entire Eurozone. So what I wanted to do is give you guys the opportunity to ask us some questions. So I know Adam had a few, but you know, we've never really done, you know, an Ask Me Anything about BitPay. And the fact that you guys are here, many of you came to our office last night, you saw all the Halloween decorations, you saw all the things we're working on. But we'd like to maybe spend some time and let you guys ask us and Charlie some questions about who we are and what we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And while we're moving the microphone around for whoever has the first question, I actually do have a question that has really been on my mind. Actually, first off, were you going to show?
Yeah, let's go over.
Yeah, actually, Charlie's going to show off the new Bit Instant. You know, the working.
So a few weeks ago, well, like 6 weeks ago, a lot of you guys came to our website and saw we turned off. And a lot of you guys have been showing up at my house, my parents' house, my apartment, emailing, calling, trying to figure out what's been going on. And we've been super quiet, and I'm really happy to be able to share some information with you. First off, we are relaunching, and I'll show you guys just what our new website looks like. It doesn't really come up well on here. But essentially, come to our website and, oh, it doesn't really come up here. I did, it doesn't. Oh, awesome. Come on the site, you'll be able to click something like buy Bitcoins, choose cash, Dwala. We have a bank account feature too. We can pull directly from your bank account for less than 1% fee. We have a new account system, and just like BitPay, we have our own internal what we buy and what we sell at. We also have some cool new features where you can sell Bitcoins. We can put money in your bank account, ACH, like Coinbase does. It takes 2 to 3 days. We also have this cool feature that if you're on any of the debit networks, like Visa, MasterCard, Plus, Star, Nice, we can put money in your bank account within like an hour or two. So if you have Bitcoins, you're at a store, you want to be able to buy something, you can go to BitInstant on your mobile phone and send some Bitcoins to that card, and within usually like an hour, a lot of times less, but around an hour, the money's on the card. We did that by partnering up with the Fiserv network. Really great people allowed us to do that. We have a really, really good fees page now, more about us, and you can log in to your account, and I'll just show you your limits. And we have a few stages of tiers of the ability, like I have transaction limits here, add a bank account, add a debit card, do some cool stuff. And a lot of the reason that we came down was FinCEN came out with their compliance Bitcoin update a few months ago, and we realized that we are one of a few Bitcoin companies in the United States, and we always wanted to stay in the United States. We didn't want to leave anywhere. We always tried to become compliant and follow all the procedures. In fact, in 2011, when we first started BitInstant, I actually registered with FinCEN, and they had no idea what Bitcoin was. And we adopted a KYC manual over 2 years ago to do that. And we've helped them kind of process that whole thing. So when they came out with their guidance, they said Bitcoin companies are money service businesses. Not only that, but they also said that Bitcoin companies are money transmitters, except for a few different exceptions, BitPay being one of them. And we realized that, and our lawyers helped us realize that if we don't go down right now, because we're out of compliance, then we have no shot of being compliant in the future. And right now, us being down, BitPay is the only legal company in the United States that's fully compliant. All the other Bitcoin companies are trying to operate under the radar, they're trying to do different things, but it's just, none of them have money transmitter licensing or doing any of that. I'm really, really, really excited to say that while we were down, we did get, we became an agent of a licensed money transmitter in 47 states. So there are only 3 states that we can't launch in. I think Georgia is one of the states that we can't launch in. No. I just realized that. But there are a few states that we're fighting too, that we're saying, look, Bitcoin is not money transmission, and we're spending a significant amount of our own investment dollars doing that. Unfortunately, we've had to stay quiet about a lot of these things because states don't allow you to say what's going on. The good thing about myself being the vice chairman of the Bitcoin Foundation, and because of BitInstant, I'm able to use a lot of the resources that we have to do that, and the foundation has been actively involved in helping change laws. The good thing about that too is that the money transmitter laws are, every single state requires you to get licensed. It's completely archaic. It's ridiculous, and some states only give licenses to like Western Union, PayPal, and MoneyGram. The barrier of entry is super high for any startup in the financial tech industry, including Bitcoin. Now, I call up my good friend David, who runs the National Money Transmitter Association, and he's like, thank you guys. Now we have a fighting chance to uniform the money transmitter laws. So the good thing is that now we have a lot of these money transmitter companies, these old guys, the check cashing guys, are on our side, and they want to work with Bitcoin companies, put all our resources together, and we'll go after the government's archaic laws. So the thing is, like, you may not like a lot of the laws that are in play, but if you want to be a company based in the United States, if you want to have employees, you want to be able to get benefits, and you want to not go to jail, you have to follow them or try to change them. So I'm going to do the latter, and we're trying to change a lot of these laws in the meantime, following them. So as soon as, I think the last thing we're working on is, it's interesting because banks had no problems working with us before, but once we got licensed, no bank wants to work with us anymore. It's ridiculous. But we're working on it too, as you see that we're really lowering our prices. Cash deposits, instead of being around 4%, will be between 1 and 2%. We've cut out a lot of middlemen and got approvals from a lot of mom and pop locations all over the country, excuse me, to do that. So really, really making it easier for people to buy and sell Bitcoin. The overall experience, because we realized from statistics and working with large exchanges like Mt. Gox, is that most people don't want to buy Bitcoin on exchanges. You don't want to have to wire to an exchange, deal with the trading thing, enter a trade order, buy, sell, hassle, withdraw the coins. You want to be able to go to a 7-Eleven, hand a teller some cash, and you'll have Bitcoins in your wallet, and we're making that experience possible. And we've been around for almost 2 years. We're one of the oldest Bitcoin companies, proudly serving our customers, and we've made that experience possible, and we don't plan on going anywhere. So I'm really sorry, you guys, that we had to go down for the month or 2 that we've been doing it. But we're still here, we're still active, and we're going to be back better than ever, fully compliant, and ready to take on the global financial system. Thanks.
So I actually have a follow-up question. So like I said, if you have a question, please put your hand up and a microphone will find you. Probably the topic of this panel is merchanthood, and we have, again, like I said, some of the most prominent people who fill that description and enable other people to be merchants too up here. So if there are any questions, now's the time to ask them. Charlie, I wanted to know, besides the bank account, is there anything else that's stopping you up?
No, we have. Most of our team stayed with us during the downtime. We had to trim the fat a little bit on our team because as we built up the volume, I think right before we went down, our monthly volume was around a little under $10 million per month. And once we went down, we realized that with the budget that we had for that, I had a duty to my investors, so I couldn't keep a lot of the extra things. That we had to lower our fresh direct budget, and we couldn't get fresh fruit every day. Now we get it every other day. A lot of people are very angry about that. But yeah, mostly it's just the bank account right now. But we have a lot of good leads, and we're working really hard. There's only one bank in the country, Silicon Valley Bank, that's really willing to work with Bitcoin companies. Other than that, there's no. The Fedor Bank in Germany is working with Bitcoin.de, and we've been talking to them too. Right now we have a few leads and many options. It's just the best one because we want to be able to expand in Europe too. I shouldn't say this, but we'll be able to do cash deposits in the UK within a few weeks of launching too. So that, the ability for us to have an account in Europe and in the US, so working with a bank that has reach all over the world is what we're trying to do.
This is a question in regards to BitInstant. When you restore like cash bank deposits, what will be the limit on that?
So the cash deposits are not at banks anymore. We haven't had banks in a year and a half. We're at 7-Eleven, Walmart, CVS, Duane Reade, Walgreens. We're at all the MoneyGram locations. We're going to be soon at another very, very large competitor to MoneyGram. We're going to be at all their locations soon. We're going to be pretty much over 1 million locations in the US, but not banks. The reason for that is banks don't like it, and it adds a lot more regulation on top of it. But at the same time, your limits for cash deposits, even though the price goes down, I didn't really talk about this, but there are 3 tiers of KYC now. So if you want to come to our site, you can do up to $500 per day in buying Bitcoins just by giving us your name, address, and we can verify to get some databases. You know, very minimal amount, up to the bare minimum. The second level is, all right, you prove that this information you gave us is a real person. Now prove this is you. So we ask you a bunch of questions like, we see that you leased a car in 1995. What kind of car was it? You took a mortgage. We use a lot of the publicly accessible information to prove that this person is in fact you sitting by the computer. To do that, that'll raise your limits up to $2,000 per day. Now, if you want to go up to the $10,000 level, it's very easy. A lot of people don't want to actually present their ID, but for those people that want to, if you hold up your ID to your webcam on your computer, or you scan it, we will verify that your ID is real. We'll pull all the data off of the ID, and within an hour, you can be fully compliant, verified. It only takes about an hour to do it, not 3 weeks, the amount Gox takes. So yeah, it's up to $10,000 per day, depending on how much information you want to give us. I think that like, when you walk into a bank now and you want to open up an account, they automatically treat you like a criminal and you have to prove your innocence. We wanted to do the opposite. We wanted to say, all right, the more information you give us, the more of a risk we'll take on you. Because we have more risk. Every time we reach the $1,000 threshold, $2,000 threshold, and excuse me, and $10,000 threshold, we have more risk on you, more reporting requirements.
This question is about compliance and some of these new compliance consultants that I've recently become aware of. I don't know if you guys are familiar with any of them. Coin Comply might have been one of the names. And I just wanted to get your guys' feelings about what these guys are doing and if you think that that's a viable route for someone who's interested in starting a business in this space.
Yeah, I mean, BitPay is actually working with another startup company that's getting into that business specifically. So I think it is a viable business. I think that there are a lot of Bitcoin companies that could benefit from having another company that just dealt with all of the compliance aspect of the business.
I'm trying to take all the experience that I've learned and give it for free to all members of the Bitcoin Foundation. At the same time, the foundation has a legal and regulatory committee with a few lawyers that are on the forums actively, and we have our chief counsel that anyone can call up and email. So it's like you'll get a limited amount for free from the foundation that'll get you started if you're a member. But these startups also can help a lot. The thing is, I look at these guys like I look at marketing or SEO companies. Like they have to prove their worth or show that they've done successful in the future and not their first roundabout too. But other than that, it's great. But at the same time, you're still going to hit the same bottlenecks with the government, and no one can really help you. Even your lawyers, there's still a lot that you have to do, and strings you have to pull, and people you have to know. It's really, I mean, we're fighting a war down in New York, and New York is a state that's really going after Bitcoin companies very, very heavily. And New York was even where the case against Dread Pirate Roberts was put in. New York State, New York City, even Southern District, and I'm extremely aware with everyone in that office. I know all those people. Like they're extremely aware of Bitcoin. They know everyone. They know everything. They're monitoring everything. Not that anyone has anything to hide, but you know, you gotta be careful.
Yeah, BitInstant, what do you do with the photo scan after the transaction is complete?
Just store it. Not us. We store it on the third-party company that we work with. And then there's certain KYC compliance that you can call up our compliance officer. They'll give you more information. But like, if you do, I think it's like, I forget, if you do your limit every single day of the week, so if you do $10,000 every single day, and you try to skirt the limits, then we have to file what's called either a currency transaction report or a suspicious activity report on you, unfortunately.
Yeah, why don't you think the banks want to work with you now?
So, and Tony and Stephen had the same issue. Like, I'm telling you, if I had a nickel for every bank that shut us down, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. It's crazy, and I've gotten such a variety of answers. I've gotten like PNC Bank called me up and they said, yeah, they were my favorite bank to work with. They said, we see this Bitcoin industry is direct competition to us, and we can't support it. And then I've gotten things like from smaller banks who actually see the benefit in it. I've just had them say, look, we have so much on our plate right now that we can't do it. And I've also had some banks, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I've had some banks recently, like as recent as a few weeks ago, tell me that like FinCEN and the state regulators are actively blocking Bitcoin companies to get accounts because the FinCEN guidance, the MSB guidance, if you read between the lines, and I didn't at first, what it does is it requires every Bitcoin company that is a money service business to have a special MSB bank account. You can't just walk into a branch and open up an account. You have a specially designated money service business bank account. And the banks won't open one unless they have like the kosher from their state regulator, the regional regulators, and that's a whole political like cat and mouse game too. And the regulators are like, what? No way, hang up the phone. Like, what are we supposed to do?
Yes, my name is Charles Evans. I'm with Bit Accountants. We're based in South Florida. We're working with some startups down there on accounting and compliance issues. And I just wanted to let everybody know that there is a world beyond California and New York, believe it or not. We don't have a state personal income tax in South Florida, and it never snows. And we're also sticking out in the middle of the Western Hemisphere. So those of you who are mobile and who can, relocate, I understand from Megan Burton with CoinEx that Florida was one of the easiest states to deal with when she was registering her business. And I'm not saying that it's Libertopia by any stretch of the imagination, but it's someplace that you might want to consider. We actually do have running water and electricity. You'd be surprised. And we build our houses out of stone, by the way, so that when the hurricanes hit, our tunnels don't actually flood. So this is...
Florida still has a money transmitter law.
Oh, of course it does. Yes, it does.
Really rigorous.
Yeah, but like I say, from what I understand from the people who've been through the process, it's certainly a lot less onerous than what you've been having to put up with.
Yeah. Some states are really easy. I think Montana doesn't even have a money transmitter law. We should all go there.
South Carolina doesn't either.
Yeah,
so far from here, it's an hour drive.
I think the biggest states are New York, California, Texas. Texas actually, they're oddly enough, I don't know why, but they're really proactive, a lot less bureaucratic than the other states when it comes to money transmission. So I'm very impressed by the state of Texas. Actually, one of the chief regulators of the state of Texas was at the National Money Transmitter Conference 2 weeks ago. That was pretty much became a Bitcoin conference in New York.
So, Charlie, you said that you guys are going to be able to launch in 47 states, but I think OvoPay has like 38 state licenses, right? So what other money transmitters are you working with?
So we work with them in some states. Some states we've filed for a letter of administrative ruling from the states and gotten back saying that your business is clear to run in our state without a license. Some states don't have the laws. Some states we're working with another money transmitter. And some of the states we are still in negotiations with and going. A lot of the states, they want licensing fees, but there are other ways around that. Like you can set up deals with them. You have to, who do you know and what kind of pull you can make. The good thing right now is that I think that in 16 states, I strongly believe that Bitcoin is not money transmission. So the foundation, we're talking to the states, and then what we'll do is we got an opinion letter. A letter of administrative, that applies to only our company. A letter of administrative ruling applies to the whole industry. So if we get a state that says this and this business model is not money transmission, it can apply to all Bitcoin companies. So that's what the foundation, that's what we're trying to do at the same time. So we're going out to like Hawaii and a few other states.
So about BitPay, I'm curious. You know, it seems like Charlie has run into one specific problem that's caused a lot of trouble for him. You know, have you guys had any real roadblocks appear that you weren't able to get past and you just had to kind of route around, or have you not run into problems?
Well, usually people just don't understand it, and once we explain what we do, we are a merchant acquirer, especially in a town like Georgia where there's 100,000 people that work for merchant processing companies. They understand what our business is and what we do. So then it becomes a matter of, you know, why we think we're better than credit card processing. And, you know, like Steve said, credit cards were designed in the 1950s. They were never designed for the internet. And they have a lot of hidden fees, and this is something you're going to start to see from BitPay in the weeks and months ahead. We're really going to be starting to poke fun at credit cards because everybody thinks they pay 2-point-something% for credit cards. Well, you don't. There's a lot of hidden charges. If somebody walks in with a Sky Miles card or a rewards card or a cashback card, guess where that cashback and rewards comes from? The banks don't pay for it. You know, they make the merchant pay for it because your customer chose to pay that way. If you take a payment over the internet, guess what? You're going to pay about 1% higher in fees than if you take it in person. So we're really going to start, you know, poking fun at the credit cards and really starting to drive home the point that, you know, Bitcoin is a much technically superior solution, as well as kind of a no-brainer for businesses to try to accept it. I mean, half the companies we meet with, they hear us talk and they say, well, why wouldn't we do this?
Yeah, I just want to praise them a little bit because a great use case is I own a bar and nightclub in New York that a lot of you guys know about and have been to. It's called EVR in New York City. And we accept Bitcoin. We're one of the only Bitcoin accepting bars. I think there's a few more now. And we've been accepting it since April. And for us, we'd rather you pay in Bitcoin. I'll give you a few use cases. First of all, Bitcoin is super easy. It takes 5 seconds to train any new waiter or waitress in accepting Bitcoin. It's as simple as a tablet. You click a button, enter the check number, enter the amount, click checkout, customer holds their cell phone up to it or has the address already stored and send the Bitcoins, and that's it. It takes 2 seconds. Credit card, it's a whole hassle. How many times have you been out and you give the waitress your credit card before you go out and like you never get it back, you never see that waitress again, and you come back and you want to check out, you want to leave, and you have to sign a paper, and it's a whole hassle, it's a whole to-do. And then not only that, but us as a nightclub, the hospitality industry, we get hit with between 7 to 10% credit card fees. So whenever you guys are buying like a $10,000 bottle, I'm hoping we're getting killed. We're getting killed on that. Not only that, but credit card companies for hospitality hold the money for 3 weeks, and that's if you have a good reputation. So a small reputation, small organization like us, we have cash flow. We have to buy more liquor. We have to pay people. It's difficult. Holding money 3 weeks is a huge cash flow issue for us. With BitPay, the money is in our account the next morning through ACH. It's in our bank account the next morning. It's crazy. So not only that, but there's never any chargebacks. You know how many times we have a guy on camera, like we say, wave at the camera when you're signing your check, wave at the camera, super sober, comes in the next day, oh, I didn't buy this $10,000 bottle of champagne, I was drunk. Chargeback, fine, even if you were 100% right, you have the guy signing an affidavit on the spot as he was buying it. American Express will hold that money for another 45 days. It's ridiculous. We can't afford it. The credit card industry is raping merchants. So thank you, BitPay.
First of all, thanks for the work that all you guys are doing. I think it's fantastic. I wanted to ask how you guys see yourselves coexisting with merchants who are just happy to have people cutting and pasting that 33-digit number, or like people who use foreign exchanges or meet in person on local Bitcoin, because the door is open to do all these things without having to show your identity or do anything else. It's just a much smaller door.
I agree. Can I answer this one first?
Yeah,
No, look, don't forget, at the end of the day, if we're all holding Bitcoins and you do something amazing, we're all making money. Right? So even if I have a crazy competitor who I despise personally, we're still going to be very good friends. And if there's something that will affect my Bitcoins or my business, I'm calling them up and we're all going to work together, which is one of the reasons that we started the foundation, so we can all work together. But at the same time, I don't know if you're familiar with Joshua Rossi, John Owens, and myself started Satoshi Square. And that is a local meetup every week in New York City where we've had over $10,000 traded within 2 hours in cash, person to person. And now we've expanded to Berlin, Tel Aviv, London, and people are calling us out. They want to do it in Iceland, Florida, California. We have someone who wants to do it in Tiananmen Square now, Satoshi Square.
All right. Yeah.
Is he here? Somewhere.
Is that Bo?
I think it's Bo and Jake. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Satoshi Square and Tiananmen Square.
Yeah, you guys have that. Yeah, but to answer your question, can a merchant accept Bitcoins themselves? Absolutely, they don't need us. But once you actually start looking into the requirements of it, it's not so easy. If you want to have the customers be able to pay you and give them immediate access to whatever they bought, that means you got to have some kind of a hot wallet on a server that's publicly accessible. So you got to be an IT security expert just to get past that first part. But then you've got to actually do the work. You have to write every line of code to interface with the wallet between your software and detect, every time a payment comes in, well, who just paid me? Is it the right amount? What is it for? What do I do next? So there's a lot of work to be done. If you are a charity and you're taking donations, you can slap a web address up there and just dump coins into a wallet, it works fine. But any type of e-commerce where you have to make decisions in real time, 24/7 to process orders, that's really where the expertise of us comes in. And any business that would look at what we do and try to reinvent it themselves to save 1% probably isn't a smart business person, because they can easily outsource that and spend that extra money promoting and running and managing their business instead of trying to reinvent the wheel.
Given the level of regulatory restriction in the U.S., and I gather it's more liberal in Canada, right, slightly, what are the chances that innovation in payment systems are going to be, more progressive around the world than the U.S., and the U.S. is going to be spending the next, decade sort of catching up?
I can take this one. I've been to Canada and dealt with our banks there. I just got back from Europe, and I got to tell you, the regulatory environment there is much more transparent. You know the path you have to go down. For example, in Europe, they have a European Payments Directive, and you have to get a license in one nation state, but once you have that, you can operate in any other nation state. So we went to Holland. We chose Amsterdam as our European headquarters, and we met with the Dutch Central Bank. There's 3 people in a room that make the decisions on their payment processor licenses. And it was really interesting, because when you apply, they give you a certificate that says you've applied, we acknowledge you, now we know who you are, we're going to track you and investigate you. But here's a waiver, you can do up to 3 million euros a month while your application is in process. So I can take that to the bank and we can start operating, right, as long as we play by the rules. You're not going to get that here. And so I really think that Bitcoin is going to be more rapidly adopted in Europe and in Canada than in the US. Not only for the regulatory reason, but just some practical reasons, right? Every computer system in Europe is already set up to handle multiple currencies. That's kind of a prerequisite for dealing with Bitcoin. You go to any business here in the US, their machine doesn't understand anything other than US dollars. And so I think we do run a risk of being like the only people still left on the English system where the whole world was on the metric system. I think Bitcoin is the metric system for money, for lack of a better word, but the whole world's going to use it, and the United States will be an island if we don't figure out how, to make our businesses better connect with what's going on in the rest of the world.
What about the developing world?
Yeah, the developing world is interesting just because, the regulations there are, not very well established. Right? It's a lot about who you know.
Cash in hand.
Yeah, for lack of a better word. But we're seeing most of our growth from the emerging markets because A, they don't have the existing banking and credit card structure that we have, right? They don't have any tools to buy things on the internet now. If you go to Russia, how do you buy things on the internet in Russia? You can't, because they all pay cash in person, and they're just starting to get credit cards, so they're just now starting to have some of the things that we have. When you get into areas like India, where PayPal has been restricted. It's illegal to use PayPal now. If somebody sends you money, you have to push it to a bank account. You can't send it to another PayPal user. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity for Bitcoin in emerging markets just because they don't have the comforts and convenience that we have. For us, it's a marginal improvement. For them, it's a monumental improvement over what they're using now.
Yeah, especially in Africa where they don't have, they never even built landlines because it's such a new infrastructure build-up that they said, why skip landlines? Let's just have mobile phone towers. They're much cheaper and easier. So what we saw in Kenya, Somalia, a lot of different countries that we've been talking to is that mobile airtime is used as currency. And while we were figuring out what to do, how to penetrate that, I bought a domain name for like 1 Bitcoin on the Bitcoin forums called bitcoinwireless.com, and I launched this project as a side project of BitInstant, and the demand for it was so big that we had to shut it down in one day. But essentially the site was the ability for a flat rate, one-to-one, you can buy mobile airtime in over 280 countries using Bitcoin. And so we took that site down to rebuild it, and we'll hopefully be launching that in a month or two. But with the demand that we saw, we had mobile phone carriers all over Africa, the Middle East, and Asia say, here, we'll give you like a 10% discount. I forget the 2% we were giving you before. So now, we're working with BitPay that are processing that, and we'll be able to offer like a discount on that. So if you're giving me $50 worth of Bitcoin, we can give you even $55 worth of mobile airtime credit. And to someone sending money home in Somalia, that's how they will send money home to Somalia. There is no other way to send money to Somalia right now. So we'll see if anyone wants to help work on that project, I'm pretty much like just open sourcing it, and any developers want to work on that, please, our BitInstant developers are really busy working on that, so we really want to get Bitcoin Wireless launched.
Well, I think that if that's all the questions, then we are just about out of time here. I'd like to thank all the panelists for talking to us. Big round of applause.